I think when we first started it, it started as a very small idea with Harry and I scratching our heads going, how can we do something that's going to help us in the future? How are we going to build something that's going to provide almost a vehicle to allow us to impact in charitable areas? Because it was quite difficult at the time. Harry and I used to go to a lot of engagements and see these.
Tears filled Princess Catherine's eyes as doctors whispered the words she never expected to hear. Due date, January 2026. After months of silence, sickness, and fear, the news felt like a miracle. But what followed wasn't just joy. It was the quiet return of hope, strength, and something far more powerful. The moment the due date was confirmed, the room felt frozen in time. William and Catherine sat together, hands intertwined, as the doctor entered with a calm but serious expression. For months, they'd waited for this moment, through treatments, setbacks, and silence. And now, the words they'd been longing to hear finally came. Your due date is January 2026. Neither of them moved. Catherine blinked, stunned, her eyes slowly filling with tears. She'd held everything in for so long, her fear, her hope, her exhaustion. But now the relief was too strong to hold back. She cried quietly, her shoulders gently shaking as she looked down at her lap. William leaned in and whispered, "Thank God she's safe." His voice cracked as he said it. These weren't royal tears for the cameras. They were raw, real, and deeply human. In that moment, they weren't the future king and queen. They were just two people who had been through hell together and were finally seeing the light. The doctor stepped back respectfully, sensing the gravity of what had just happened. And for a few minutes, no one spoke. Catherine turned to William, their foreheads gently touching, and they simply sat in that silence. Hearts racing, eyes wet, completely overwhelmed by love and relief. This wasn't just a medical update. It was a turning point, a reminder that after all they had faced, something beautiful was waiting on the other side. A new life, a new chapter, and most of all, a new beginning. The pregnancy that no one expected. No one saw it coming, not the press, not even those closest to Catherine. Just a few months before, she had been undergoing intense cancer treatment. Her body had been pushed to the limit. Every day was a battle against fatigue, nausea, and emotional weight. The thought of having another baby wasn't even part of the conversation. It felt completely out of reach. So when the first signs began to appear, sickness, fatigue, and unusual hormone changes, Catherine thought her recovery was simply taking a toll. But a blood test revealed something shocking. She was pregnant. Even the palace medical team was stunned. It's rare, her doctor admitted, but it's real. Scans confirmed the heartbeat. Every appointment showed strong development. And despite the risks, Catherine remained steady. She wasn't reckless. She was quietly determined. Instead of making a public announcement, she chose to keep the pregnancy private. This wasn't about royal headlines. It was about preserving a miracle. She didn't want the world watching her every move, not after what she had been through. So she stayed in the background, protecting the tiny life growing inside her like it was the most sacred secret she had ever held. What made it even more powerful was how she carried it, with calm, quiet strength. After everything, she still had space in her heart for hope. And this time, that hope came with a heartbeat. Catherine's private tears and quiet strength. The day her pregnancy was confirmed as healthy, Catherine walked out of the doctor's room and stood quietly in the hallway. She didn't call anyone. She didn't say a word. She just leaned against the wall, placed a hand over her stomach, and cried. It wasn't sadness, it wasn't fear. It was relief, deep, soul-shaking relief. For so long, she had carried herself with grace in front of the world. She had smiled through treatments. She had walked into royal events with quiet dignity, even while her body was aching. She had made sure her children felt safe, even when she wasn't sure what was coming next. But here, in a hallway away from cameras and crowds, the walls came down. Her tears weren't weak. They were honest. They were strong. They were the tears of someone who had faced the darkest moments and still chose to believe in life. A palace aide who passed by said later, "She looked like someone who had just been told she could finally breathe again." She didn't cry for long. She wiped her face, took a deep breath, and returned to William with a small smile. That smile wasn't for show. It was the kind that only comes after surviving the unimaginable. Catherine wasn't just expecting a baby. She was proving once again that her strength wasn't in what she said. It was in how she carried on, day after day. The battle behind closed doors. During her months away from public life, people asked a lot of questions. Where was she? Was she okay? But behind the palace walls, the truth was far more serious than the headlines guessed. Catherine wasn't just resting, she was fighting. Her days were filled with exhaustion, intense treatments, and long, silent nights. There were moments when she could barely eat, barely stand, but she never asked for pity. She asked only for time, to heal, to recover, to survive. Behind closed doors, she was focused on one thing: coming back. Not for the public, not for her title, but for her family. She stayed out of the spotlight because her energy was precious. Every ounce of it went toward her kids, her health, and her quiet prayers for better days. Friends say she read children's books to Louis, even when she could hardly sit up. She helped George with homework when her hands were shaking from fatigue. Catherine didn't make speeches or give interviews. She just kept going. And then came the miracle. The pregnancy. A heartbeat. The light at the end of a very long, very dark tunnel. Doctors couldn't explain how it was even possible so soon after treatment. But one thing was clear. It was happening. And she was ready. The sickness returns, and so does her willpower. It didn't take long for the symptoms to return. At first, Catherine thought it was just regular morning sickness. But soon, the waves of nausea became constant. Food became unbearable. Water wouldn't stay down. Her body, already fragile from recent recovery, was being pushed again. This time by hyperemesis gravidarum, the same brutal condition she faced in past pregnancies. Some days, she couldn't get out of bed. She'd lie in silence, eyes closed, trying to breathe through the dizziness. Just standing up could send her into a spiral. And yet, she never once complained. Doctors monitored her closely. Nutrition, drips, round-the-clock care. Still, her response was always the same: calm, focused, determined. She had beaten cancer. She wasn't going to let this steal her joy. She returned to familiar comforts, the ones that had helped her through before. Brown toast, avocados, her favorite homemade curry, made just right to calm her stomach. Some days, that's all she could keep down, but even one bite felt like a small victory. And then there was hypnobirthing, a quiet tool Catherine had leaned on during her previous pregnancies. It helped her center herself. When the pain came, she focused on breathing, on staying still in the storm. It wasn't about avoiding reality. It was about facing it with inner strength. Behind the scenes, she stepped back from royal events, but she never stopped working. Catherine continued reviewing projects, speaking with her charity teams, and guiding her household from behind closed doors. No one outside the palace saw her struggle, but they felt her presence. One senior aide said, "She leads even when she's lying in bed." This wasn't just a sickness. It was a reminder of how much she was willing to endure, not for duty, not for image, but for her child. Through every sleepless night, every painful wave, she never lost sight of the bigger picture. Catherine didn't need to prove anything to anyone, but with each quiet battle she fought, she showed once again why so many admire her. She's not just a royal. She's a woman walking through fire and refusing to let go of hope. And through it all, her strength never left her. It simply grew louder, in silence. One name, one legacy, one silent promise. The moment doctors gently confirmed the baby was likely a girl, Catherine and William locked eyes. Nothing needed to be said, but Catherine said it anyway. "It has to be Diana." William didn't respond with words. His eyes filled with tears, and he simply nodded. That was the moment the weight of legacy truly landed. Not just any name, but her name. The name that changed the royal family forever. The name that the world still whispers with love and pain. This wasn't about headlines. It wasn't about reclaiming old wounds. It was about a daughter who would never meet her grandmother, but who would carry her spirit through the values she'd learn and the love that would surround her. The full name being considered, Diana Elizabeth Charlotte Windsor, was more than symbolic. Diana, to honor a legacy of compassion and courage. Elizabeth, to carry the strength of a queen who gave her life to service. And Charlotte, to root the child in family, connection, and present-day grace. Inside the palace, not everyone was at ease. Camilla, some say, felt unsettled by the idea. But this wasn't about rivalry. It wasn't about her. This was something sacred, a bond between generations that even the crown couldn't control. Naming a royal child is always political, but this one, it's deeply personal. And for Catherine, it was a silent promise. To raise a daughter who would know strength without needing a title, who would lead with kindness and live with integrity. A daughter who would be part of the monarchy, yes, but more importantly, part of a healing story. As William later said in private, "We're not naming her for attention, we're naming her for love." The children's reaction to their sister. When George, Charlotte, and Louis were gathered in the family's private sitting room, they had no idea what was coming. Catherine and William shared the news softly. There was going to be a new baby, a little sister. The joy in the room was instant. Charlotte's eyes lit up as she squealed, "Baby Sparkle!" That's the name she immediately picked, insisting it had to be cute and shiny like her. Louis, always the imaginative one, rushed off to the art table and returned with a drawing. A big sun, a smiling baby, and stick figures labeled me, George, Lottie, and now baby Diana. He taped it proudly to the fridge. George was quieter but thoughtful. He asked, "Can I help name her?" William looked at him, smiling, and replied, "You already have." The house, once filled with quiet after months of Catherine's recovery, was suddenly loud again. Laughter bounced through the halls. Toys were pulled out. baby books returned to the shelves. It was a shift from survival mode to celebration. For the children, this wasn't just a new sibling. It was a return to normal, a sign that their family was healing. They'd been through so much, watching their mother battle illness, seeing her disappear from public view, sensing the worry in the air. Now, they had something to hold on to, something joyful. Insiders say the atmosphere inside Adelaide Cottage shifted overnight. More play, more stories, more hugs, and more questions from the kids about what their new sister would be like. It's easy to forget, amid the cameras and titles, that this is still a family. And for George, Charlotte, and Louis, this baby wasn't news. She was hope. Catherine's greatest role, mother. Royal titles may dazzle the world, but to Catherine, there's only one role that truly defines her: mother. At home, she's not the Princess of Wales. She's just Mummy. She's the one tying shoelaces, checking homework, brushing hair, and reading bedtime stories. Even while recovering, she never let go of those rituals. William has often said that Catherine is the center of their family. When things fall apart, she's the one who holds everything together. Through cancer, through pregnancy, through chaos, her presence never wavered. The new baby has only deepened that connection. Catherine finds herself talking to her bump, just like she did with her older children. She plays Diana's favorite music in the background. She lights candles at night, quietly dreaming of the daughter she'll soon hold. Friends say she has this glow, not of royalty, but of grounded motherhood. The kind that comes from knowing what matters and why. During meals, she involves the children in choosing names, asking what they think the baby will look like. She wants this to be everyone's journey, not just hers. Even during days of intense sickness, when she could barely eat, she made time to sit beside the kids, listening to their stories and reminding them she was okay. This is the side of Catherine the world rarely sees. Not the formal wave, the public smile, but the constant presence at home. The woman who makes sandwiches and tells bedtime stories about Grandma Diana in a way a child can understand. With this new baby, her sense of purpose has only grown, not in a royal sense, but in the deeply personal space of family, love, and resilience. As one close aide put it, she isn't building an empire, she's building a home. The royal crisis that shadows the joy. Behind the happiness of Catherine's pregnancy, a quieter storm has been building, one that could reshape the monarchy forever. King Charles's health has continued to decline, more rapidly than many expected. Though no official statements have been made, whispers around the palace have grown louder. A soft transition is already underway. Advisors have begun preparing Prince William for what may come sooner than expected. And here's the tension. While Catherine grows a new life, William may soon carry the weight of the crown. January 2026 could bring two defining events: a royal birth and a royal shift of power. One is filled with joy, the other with historic consequence. Insiders say palace schedules are being reshuffled. Security briefings now include William more than ever. And Charles has privately asked his son to step into key ceremonial roles before year's end. This means Catherine's pregnancy is no longer just personal, it's political. She's carrying new life while navigating an institution bracing for leadership change. And in between the nursery planning and morning sickness, she's helping William prepare for a possible future as king. That balance between motherhood and monarchy is now more fragile than ever. It's not just about raising a daughter, it's about raising her during one of the most defining royal transitions of the modern era. And yet, through it all, Catherine stays composed. She remains focused, because as she's shown time and time again, grace under pressure isn't her act. It's her way of life. Catherine's return to the public eye. When Catherine stepped onto the balcony at Trooping the Color, the world took a deep breath. She was there. She was back. But it wasn't just a photo op. It was a silent declaration. I'm still standing. Her appearance was elegant, but understated. A soft smile. A steady wave. But those who know her say every movement was intentional, not overdone, not forced, just strong and quietly radiant. Behind the scenes, she'd been preparing for this moment for weeks. Carefully timed, closely monitored, and entirely on her terms. Catherine didn't rush back for optics. She returned because she was ready. Throughout her absence, she had remained involved in her charitable work, especially causes close to her heart: early childhood, mental health, and family welfare. Her teams say she never stopped writing notes, suggesting edits, or connecting behind closed doors. But she did it all while healing, while growing life, while holding her family together. This return wasn't about proving something to the press or palace. It was a quiet nod to the public. I'm still here, and I'm not done yet. And people noticed. Messages poured in. Social media lit up. Support surged. Catherine didn't need headlines. Her strength spoke for itself. As one royal observer said, she didn't walk out like a princess. She stood there like a queen. The nation's reaction. Diana's legacy lives on. The moment the due date was confirmed and the name Diana whispered, the reaction across Britain and beyond was instant. It wasn't just excitement, it was emotion. It was remembrance, and it was deeply personal for so many. Headlines didn't hold back. Diana reborn, one declared. A new hope for the crown, read another. But beyond the bold letters, it was the people who spoke loudest. Outside Buckingham Palace, flowers started appearing. Messages were taped to the gates, notes of love, encouragement, and memories of the woman this child would be named after. One handwritten card read, "You were our Queen of Hearts. Now your granddaughter will carry your light." On social media, it exploded. Hashtags like #BabyDiana, Windsor Hope, and Princess Reborn began trending. Videos resurfaced of Princess Diana holding baby William. Edits blended her face with Catherine's, imagining the grandmother meeting the granddaughter she'd never know. But none of this felt performative. It felt like healing. For years, Diana's legacy has hung over the monarchy, powerful, painful, and complex. This baby isn't an attempt to replace her. It's a way to honor her, to show that her spirit, her compassion, her truth never left. Royal historians called it a full circle moment. Supporters called it justice. Even critics admitted it was moving. And for the public, especially those who had grown up with Diana or watched her story unfold with heartbreak, this baby felt like a second chance. Not for Diana, but for the family she left behind. Catherine and William never made a public announcement about the name. They didn't have to. The whispers were louder than any statement, and the world embraced it before it was even confirmed. Because sometimes, the heart decides what a name means. And this name, Diana, means love that outlives the crowns. More than a baby, a rebirth.
This baby girl is more than just a new royal. She represents something deeper, a kind of rebirth. Not only for Catherine, but for the monarchy itself.
Over the past year, everything around the royal family has felt heavy. King Charles's health, public pressure, shifting loyalties inside palace walls, rumors, scandals, exits. It's been a whirlwind. But this child is a pause in that storm. A soft, beautiful reset. She's not here to fix the monarchy, but her existence is already changing its story. She will grow up not just surrounded by privilege, but by purpose. In a family that knows pain, knows scrutiny, and has learned how to walk through it. William once told a close friend, "This child is light, pure light. After all we've walked through, she's what we didn't know we needed." Catherine, too, has spoken softly about how this pregnancy has transformed her. After months of isolation, illness, and recovery, this baby has become her quiet triumph. A new chapter written in hope, not hardship. The way this family has come together. George comforting his mum, Charlotte naming her Sparkle, William holding it all with quiet strength, says everything about the atmosphere this child will be born into. No cold corridors, no empty smiles. This child is entering a home filled with laughter, resilience, and healing. And perhaps that's where the real change lies. In this new generation growing up with values passed down not from rigid royal protocol, but from grace under fire, from kindness under pressure, and from parents who have learned what matters most. In a time when many question the future of the monarchy, this baby doesn't just add to the line of succession, she adds to its soul. Catherine's new beginning. For Catherine, this baby isn't just the continuation of family. She is the beginning of something new, something hard-earned, something sacred. After one of the most difficult years of her life, battling illness, stepping away from the public, facing endless speculation, Catherine is now stepping into a quiet but powerful rebirth of her own. Her tears at the doctor's office, when the due date was confirmed, weren't just about a pregnancy milestone. They were the release of months of silent strength, the emotion of surviving when many doubted her, and the relief of finally saying, "We're okay." She's not rushing back into the spotlight. She doesn't need to. Her presence is already louder than any headline. Her family feels whole again. Her children are smiling again. William is standing taller. And that's no coincidence. Insiders say Catherine has taken on more leadership behind the scenes than ever before. Not through formal power, but through calm strategy, compassion, and a quiet sense of direction. Her voice carries weight, and it's being heard. This baby, expected in January 2026, isn't just her fourth child. She's Catherine's quiet triumph, the proof that storms pass and love remains. The Wales household has never felt more united, more grounded, and more ready. Because now, Catherine isn't just healing. She's leading, not as a queen in title, but as the heartbeat of a modern royal family, one that's stronger than it's ever been. And as she prepares to welcome this child, Catherine knows she's stepping into a chapter not of recovery, but of reign. A reign not marked by crowns or protocols, but by presence, purpose, and profound grace. Let me know if you'd like the full script compiled or adapted into voiceover style next. This isn't just another royal baby. For Catherine, it's a symbol of survival, renewal, and deep love. Her tears marked the beginning of a powerful new chapter. And as the world watches, one thing is clear: this child is more than a headline. She's the heartbeat of a family reborn.